I've never been so cold in my life. It was the wind chill. But on top of that, every couple of hours, you got a torrential rainstorm. Some people went without resupply of food for 3 days. The logistic shortfall created by Fire Brigade was a very significant effect on us.
I can remember being starving, hungry. We were making 24-hour ration packs stretched to 2 or 3 days. We were using water out of muddy puddles. Very grim existence.
Boots simply were hopeless, and trench foot became an increasing issue.
In the morning when I looked at my feet, I couldn't believe it. They were like size 15, they were massive. The pain I was going through was like someone had grabbed your foot, got a needle, stuck it in and started scratching the bone.
There was no danger of being defeated by the Argentines. There was a serious danger of being defeated by exposure. If we'd had to go on for another 2 weeks, probably things would have been different.
The next day, British forces began the battle for Port Stanley, attacking the mountaintop defences around the capital. Royal Marines prepared to attack Mounts Harriet and Two Sisters in night assaults. Three Para's objective was Mount Longdon.
The Sergeant Major, Johnny Weeks, what a man, amazing man. He gave his speech, and he said, if you've got a God, perhaps you might want to pray to them, and some of you might not come back. He gave us the truth, which is what we needed. We knew we were going to go into Hell's Gates. We then set off, and it was silent, and I could see Mount Longdon. It was a silhouette, and it reminded me of Scooby-Doo when you see the haunted castle in the silhouette. My skin was alive, it was prickly, it was really weird. As we got closer, I heard that noise, the explosion. A friend of mine, Brian Mills, stood on the mine, and he was in agony. And then the whole world lit up. It was pitch black. The sky changed colour with the illuminating rounds. It was just hell. The guy who was just 1 foot away from me got shot in the eye and went down. The guy was dead before he hit the ground.
Nosotros, en ese momento era matar o morir, no nos importaba nada. O sea, fue muy duro. Nos tiraron con todo. O sea, y bueno, lamentablemente tuvimos que retroceder. Ya habíamos perdido mucha sangre, muchos heridos, muchos caídos.
We were fighting for a day and a half and then getting bombarded for a day and a half. We couldn't sleep. All of a sudden, this flash just went past my eyes and I dropped down and I looked up and I could see a sniper taking a headshot at me. A lot of the leaders had been taken out, and we just pick our own battles, basically. We do what we were trained to do. We actually defeated the enemy by using our initiatives and fighting together.
I'll tell you who wins wars: the troops. Generals can make plans. The responsibility for making it work devolves very quickly down to the lowest level.
In the battle for Longdon, more than 200 British and Argentine troops were wounded, and 50 killed.
After we defeated the enemy, we had to then look after our dead. It's only right and proper. To pick them up and move them was the worst thing I've ever done. It actually is one of the triggers for my PTSD today, because I keep seeing a certain incident where I had to remove one of our soldiers' helmets and it wouldn't come off. So I got told to kick it off. And when I did, I wasn't expecting to see what I saw. But that haunts me to this day.
After more desperate hand-to-hand fighting, the Scots Guards took Mount.Tumbledown, and 2 Para captured Wireless Ridge. The British Army had fought some of its hardest battles since World War II. But another struggle for Port Stanley loomed.
Se pretendía que se moviera la gente de las posiciones, se saliera a combatir en forma ofensiva.
To avoid a bloodbath and heavy civilian losses, the Argentine commander, General Menendez, had to be persuaded their situation was hopeless. Michael Rose opened negotiations and relayed them back to London using the portable satellite phone.
The General is in consultation with his colleagues on this point and has just returned, so I will come back to you in a moment. Acknowledge, over.
Listening to them now after 40 years really makes the hair go up on the back of your head, hearing a sort of a voice from 40 years ago who did not know what the outcome of the negotiations would be. No one's ever listened to them before.
He is prepared to consider surrender along the lines of the 2 points. Was that it? Over. Not exactly, Ewan. The main point is that
This is me talking now, sitting in the room opposite Menendez, who had a sort of team of people, whereas Menendez having to leave the room and go and talk to, obviously, President Galtieri about what the next step should be. All I had to do, if I needed reassurance or clarification at some point, was to pick up the telephone and talk straight back to London. And so I had the moral and psychological advantage during the negotiations from the outset.
General Menendez, who is in the room with me at the moment, has agreed that the West Falklands shall be included in the surrender terms. Roger so far, over.
End of the war.
Tomé una pequeña bandera argentina que tenía dentro de mi campera durante toda la campaña. No quería que fuera un souvenir para ningún británico. La tiré al fuego de la estufa y lloré como un chico.
Yo no creo en guerras justas e injustas. Yo no creo. Una gota de sangre, tanto de un argentino o un inglés, tiene un sufrimiento detrás. Y no es bueno para el mundo. No es bueno.
I have just heard that the white flag is flying over Stanley.
It has taken 40 years for some to reveal what they really think about key aspects of the war.
I mean, the truth certainly needs to be told about some of the things that went wrong. The Board of Inquiry into the loss of the Tristram and the Galahad turned out to have been a complete whitewash by saying it was necessary to open up a southern flank. Actually, the opposite is true by 180 degrees. But that remains in the public record today, that the southern flank was essential to the retaking of Port Stanley. Wrong. It was not, and it nearly cost us the war.
Lieutenant Colonel Jones.
The order to attack and capture Goose Green, well, it slowed the whole thing down. I mean, I thought it was a stupid thing to do, and we wouldn't have lost so many people. Maybe H would be alive today.
Corporal Hartman. Corporal Sullivan.
These lessons do need to be learned so that it doesn't happen again. It's not about catching people out and slagging people off or anything like that. It's about making a difference in the future, isn't it?
The task force returned to a rapturous welcome.
There were all these boats and people and bands, and it was fantastic.
There was one unexpected cost of the victory. It is estimated that up to 28% of those involved in close quarters action suffered some form of trauma.
I was violent, I was having fights with people, I was getting into trouble, I was doing things that were just nonsensical, things that I'd never even dreamed of doing now or before. It totally changes your personality.
40 years on, it's a long time, but in many ways it's no time. I've got those families with me now. I've got those guys with us. I'm sitting here now talking to you. They've been with me every day of my life and will be so. And then wherever we go at the end of life, I will go and join them. There we are.
It's the end of the British stiff upper lip. It would have been unthinkable to a previous generation of veterans to talk about their combat experiences. And in a way, it also indicates a breaking down of rigid class divisions.
I think the Falklands War was an extraordinary military achievement. I don't think it's just sentimentality to say that we came back after that war to a different sort of Britain from the Britain that we left. And we discovered that even if we weren't very good at making motor cars, we could still win a jolly good little colonial war. It was crazy, but it was wonderful.
So I went back to the Falklands in 2002, and we looked out, the water was still, and we just started crying. It was uncontrollable, crying with our shoulders rocking up and down. I've never felt like that before in my life. The last day, I got up Mount Longdon, where the sniper took a headshot at me. I just felt sorrow. I'm so proud of what we did, but the price of having PTSD is quite a high price. But I wouldn't change it. It is what it is, you know. And the thing is, I'm alive. There's 23 of my colleagues who are not alive, so I have to live my life for them, and I do that every day.